Susan Jane Anstey was around horses her whole life. As a young girl, she rode competitively, and she fueled that passion as a young adult when she bought the horse magazine, The Corinthian, in 1978.
Susan Jane, I think, had incredible vision and a great deal of courage. She'd always been an incredibly gutsy rider, and she was a very, very gutsy businesswoman, too. The publishing industry is a notoriously difficult one to make a go of anywhere, and particularly in such a specialty niche. And Susan Jane just did an incredible job, and over the life of the magazine and the group of publications, she brought together basically all the facets of equestrian sport in Canada.
It was her vehicle principally for where she took particular stands, and that wasn't just in the editorial commentary, but also in the nature of the articles she'd publish. One of her great assets, I think, was she was very plain speak in a business where people don't necessarily value that. You always knew where you stood with her, and it was always very clear where she stood on the issues. Wasn't always popular, but almost always right. And I think she earned a great admiration as a publisher as a result of that.
Her determination, her knowledge, her personality. She had a great, great personality.
The Corinthian's name was changed to Horse Sport and became the foremost equestrian magazine in Canada. Over the next 25 years, Susan Jane would launch numerous publications, and as a journalist would cover 8 Olympics and over 24 World Cup finals and World Championships.
She sat at the center of the sport, if you think about it, I think in part because that was her personal interest and in part because of her profession. So she was at the center of all of the constituents, the riders, the owners, the sponsors, the venue operators, and it didn't confine itself simply to show jumping. And so she had a responsibility, I think, to make sure that all of those interests were very balanced. Eventually, I think her interest and her understanding of all of these, I don't want to call them competing interests, let's call them more complementary interests, led to the formation of an organization like Jump Canada. And I think that's what's led to the dramatic improvement that we've seen in the quality of show jumping here over the last 10 years.
In 1994, Susan Jane became the first female and first non-European to be elected president of the International Alliance of Equestrian Journalists. She would later chair the FEI Media Advisory Committee for 9 years.
Susan Jane was always the most important person to whom I went if I wanted to know something or if I wanted to plant maybe an idea. And even at some occasion when we had the meeting of the World Cup Committee, we invited not the chef d'équipe or rider or somebody, we invited Susan Jane because we felt she could contribute the most.
Another one of Susan Jane's great contributions to the sport was in initiating the dialogue that would eventually lead to the formation of Jump Canada. She would also subsequently serve on the board as Jump Canada's first Media and Communications Chair. Sadly, Susan Jane passed away in 2005, but her legacy lives on. She and her lifetime of achievement were honored in 2006 with the Canadian industry's highest recognition, the Equine Canada Gold Medal.
You know, I think that this sport lost a huge figure. She died way, way too young, but I think her legacy is the progress that we're seeing around the quality of horses and the quality of riders and sponsorship here in Canada for show jumping.
She wasn't afraid of hard work. She was a ton of fun, and she was pretty much fearless.